It's Monday, June 13th, and this is Drive Check, a Cardfight Vanguard podcast. From what I heard, I don't think we're going to be able to be friends anymore. $120. $120 to keep us friends, because I only have I have Ichibiyoshi, and I have like 6 of the grade 1s, but I only have 1 of the grade 2s and none of the grade 3s.
Well, I have 4 of the grade 3s, but I only got 2, or I got 4 of the grade 2s, but I only got 3 of the grade 3s.
Well, that's okay. Then $115. Anyways, we're not talking about Oracle Think Tank this week. We're still on the Gold Paladin kick. So let's stay focused. We'll talk about Oracles someday when they become relevant again, because everybody loves to tell me how they aren't relevant anymore because Mizaki does not appear in the cartoon, so nobody wants to play Oracle Think Tank. Don't think that's really how it works, but anyways... we are having part 2 of our Gold Paladin clan review this week, so hopefully we'll get some good information for everybody and close out on Gold Paladins for this time around. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about them, but I think all 3 of us got to participate in pre-releases over this past weekend. So Cole, what was your pre-release experience like?
It was pretty relaxed. It was a tournament again, but it wasn't the traditional tournament where you draft your cards. It was if you have cards, you get that set, and then if you have cards, you pull cards that you want to use into your deck, you can. I wanted to use my Gurgawit or my Bluish Flames because I know them the best, and I like them the most, I think. But they stall, sort of. It takes a very long time for me to finish a single game, and I was on a 45-minute entire match timer, so I couldn't do that, so I had to go with my Grand Blues, and I held my own with them for the most part. I'm getting better for sure. Let's see, I was 2 versus 2. I ended up 2-1 against a Royal Paladin, Thing Saver, Blaster, whatever that whole thing was. Because it was weird. It had Blaster Blade, Blaster Dark, Majesty Blaster, and then it had the grade 3 Dragon Legion Thing Saver, yeah.
You mean my old deck that I used to destroy Will with? Yeah, I remember
whatever.
that.
The one time we played, whatever. So it was it best 2 out of 3 that you won 2 games?
No, I lost 2, but they were like all really close. Like it ended up like the last crit mattered on each game, basically. And then I actually won 1 match against Dark Irregulars, which that was a crazy deck to go up against. And then I got destroyed by a Gurgawit deck, the most aggressive Gold Paladin Gurgawit deck I think I've played so far. It was crazy.
All right,
but. Yeah.
So what's the name of the shop that you went to?
Summit Sports Comics and Games, I think.
That's the same one you always go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Island again. I didn't out in Centerville, Virginia. And they did the pre-release differently than my previous experience at Dream Wizards, where Dream Wizards very much does the standard what Bushiroad expects you to do at a pre-release, which is the draft. The pizza box draft, as they call it. But at Island Games, instead, like when you buy into the pre-release, you get your 6 packs, and you just get them. And then they have like a competition afterwards where it's $350 to get into a pod, and then if you win the pod, then you can win extra packs from the pre-release and stuff like that. So I literally have nothing of any interest in any of the clans in this set 7. So there was a pre-release for set 7, the Glorious Bravery of Radiant Sword. And I only went to get cards for my coworker Alan, to get cards, the Dimension Police for you, Cole, and to get Angel Feathers for Jack. So like I spent my $20, pulled what I pulled, which was nothing for me, and pretty much sorted out all the cards so I could give to you guys. And I didn't stay for the competition because first off, I didn't really want to win more packs from a set that I have no interest in. But second off, there's no way I could win, so I'd basically be paying $350 to just throw away money. And I know against that crowd at that particular shop, I'm not in a place right now where I can win any games. So I knew that it would be a waste of time. And anyways, it's a 45-minute drive, and I wanted to get home in time to like make some dinner and chill out on Sunday evening, rather than staying there and competing and losing and just kind of wasting time. I did. So I pulled Chronofang Tiger. I think was my best pull, which I gave to Alan, and I pulled that one single rare Dimension Police Enigman grade 4 for you, Cole. Although I think you're not building Enigmans, but maybe you can trade it away. And then a bunch of crummy single rare Angel Feathers for Jack. But
Angel Feather AF.
Jack's getting my Celestial Perfect Guard in the mail, so he can't complain too much.
Ooh, I can't. You're right.
So, Jack, you did a pre-release. Did you get any pulls from your pre-release?
Yeah. Well, Friday night I drove up with. Was it Friday? Friday or Saturday? I can't remember. I drove up with a friend. I think it was Saturday night. I drove up with a friend to a store in Pasadena, I believe. Can't remember what it was called. It was like an hour drive, but we split one of the pizza boxes. So I don't remember how many packs come in the pizza box, but the pizza boxes are So it's $150 for the whole pizza box, and then it comes with 2 mats, however many packs, and a pack of like 10 of the pre-release promos. So I have like 10 pre-release promos.
Oh, what was the promo that you got?
It was Golden Dragon, Rising Shine Dragon.
I got the same one.
Is that Gold Paladin?
Yep. Yeah.
I must have given mine away.
I got like 12 of those. And the really cool mat. And then I managed to pull out of my however many packs, I pulled a bunch of stuff I need. I got the SGR version of the Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon Defeat Flare Dragon. So it is a real dragon. So I got the SGR version, which is really cool because it's like two SGRs per case of booster boxes. So it's a pretty rare pull. And then I got Flame Wing Steel Beast Denial Griffin, which I needed. And then I got the Gavriel, I believe it's Black Seraph Gavriel. Yeah, so I pulled Black Seraph Gavriel, the stride
the grade
that I needed.
4? Yeah. Alan pulled one of those, and I kept texting you to find out whether you needed it, and you didn't respond fast enough. So I was like, Alan, it's yours, so use it to trade for something you need. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. My messages weren't working, so I blame
AT&T.
Apple Macintosh for that one. But it's all good. So I got cards I need.
The playmat that's included was the Stride Gurgwit.
Yes.
And it's actually a pretty nice playmat.
It is.
There was a dude, I think,
I'm looking at it right now.
An extra pizza box, and he just gave away the playmats because he didn't care for Gurgwits. And I know Alan grabbed one. I don't want to touch Gold Paladin anything, so even though I have always wanted to have a Vanguard playmat, I am not interested in a Gurgwit playmat.
They have a Messiah one. You should order one. I think it's like $10.
Nowhere I've seen. If you can send me a link for that, I would appreciate it greatly. Although I think I want a Glendios. I'm moving towards a darker side of the Link Jokers these days.
Ooh.
No errata this week. I don't think I have anything to correct from our discussions last week. So
that's a first
to me. And for news, there's really 2 news items, but I think I want to save them for next week because one of them we can have a really good discussion about, and there has been a lot of discussion in the Vanguard community about the topic of reprints. There's a special reprint that's coming out later this year that's very dear to my heart and is sort of caused quite a ruckus in the Vanguard community. So I think we'll talk about that next week. And they've also announced the Blessing of Divas, which every summer they come out with a Bermuda Triangles set, and it's only Bermuda Triangles. They've changed the name so that it's now called a clan booster set. It used to just be an extra booster. So we'll talk about the cards that are in that and talk some about Bermuda Triangles next week in episode 14. But I do want to finish talking about the Gold Paladins and close out that before we have that extensive discussion about reprints and what it means for Vanguard. So if you want to hear about reprints, tune in next week, and we will have an excessive debate. I may be devil's advocate on that one. We'll see. But let's dive into talking some more about the Gold Paladins. This week I want to talk more about the actual competitive decks and the cards that you would include in a competitive Gold Paladin deck. The one card that I think everybody, if you have it, it's actually bad luck and you should throw away. I'll just get out, right in the front. Ezel Scissors. Just toss in the trash because if you put that in your deck,
salty,
it's a guaranteed loss.
Salty.
So everyone, please just search your decks for Grand Ezel Scissors and your binders and just burn them, throw them in the trash, and be done with them.
Or just send them to me. That works too.
I'm sure, Jack, you've got a full play set of Ezel Scissors.
You can never have too many Ezels.
Whatever. All right, so Jack, do you want to talk about the competitive decks that you've played and sort of? I really would like to hear about specific cards that have to be included and what those cards do, how they either combo or power up the deck to sort of cheat out a win in the way that the Gold Paladins do.
So if you haven't figured this out already, you're probably a new listener. But Gold Paladins are a deck that just like to call a lot of units off the top of their deck just to kind of gain advantage without having to use cards from your hand.
Well,
and
right.
So
the history was that the Shadow Paladins, the Royal Paladins would call specific cards from the deck, correct?
Yes.
You pay a cost and you can get a specific card. Shadow Paladins, I think, equally would pay a different kind of cost and get a specific card from the deck, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they pay the cost of retiring units from their field.
Yeah, it's a different kind of cost. And Gold Paladins pay a cost, and they can call any card from the deck. It is not a specific named card that has to come. But you look at a certain number of top cards of the deck and then pick from those top cards one of those cards that you want to use. That is the key mechanic of the Gold Paladins right there.
Yes. And so for the longest time, up until I believe BT10, around that time, Gold Paladins were one of the strongest. They were definitively the strongest clan. Their perfect guards were like $25, $30 each. The Ezels were like 30, 40, I believe, around there. The entire clan was the most expensive clan to play, and it was by far the best clan to play. So if you go onto the Cardfight Vanguard official website, if you go to the World Championship 2012, 3 of the top 4 decks were Gold Paladin variants, and all 3 of them are different variants of Gold Paladin. And one of them is Narukami, but we're not talking about Narukami. So first off, you have the winner, which was Spectral Duke Dragon deck. And Spectral Duke Dragon came out in Extra Booster 03 Cavalry of Black Steel. And this is a ride chain unit. And what he does is Limit Break 4, Counterblast 2, and you have to choose 3 of your Gold Paladin rearguards and retire them. And then after this unit attacked a Vanguard, you can pay the cost of Counterblast 2, retire 3. You can stand the unit and he loses 2 in drive. So basically, he gets you an extra drive check. And it's a ride chain. So back in 2012 around that time, ride chains were a lot more consistent. So you got this off a lot more often. And so this is one of those. Sorry.
I was just going to say, a ride chain means that your grade 0 will have an ability that can call into your deck to get the grade 1. The grade 1 will have an ability that will call into your deck to get the grade 2. And the grade 2 will have an ability that will call into your deck to get the grade 3. So you don't have to worry so much about having the appropriate card in your hand in order to ride it. Because at the beginning of your ride phase, you can actually have a way to get into your deck to possibly get the next one. And then also, the abilities there'll be a secondary ability that depends on having the particular named card for the previous card in the ride chain to give you some sort of power up. Is that
exactly
the way Spectral Duke works?
Yeah, so he's a 10k Vanguard, and then if you have the grade 2 from the ride chain, it is Black Dragon Knight Vortimer. He gets a plus 1,000 power, so he becomes an 11k Vanguard. And so another card that was played in every single Gold Paladin deck was Player of the Holy Bow Vivian. This was a triple rare that came out in set 6, Breaker of Limits. So it was the first set Gold Paladins were introduced in besides the trial deck. And it is Counterblast 1, Vanguard, or Rearguard. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if this unit was boosted, you can Counterblast 1 and then look at the top card of your deck and then call a Gold Paladin that is there and to an open Rearguard circle. So while this card is now outclassed by a lot of like different units that do the same or similar abilities, this was like a $20 to $30, $25 card. And because it was like one of the best grade 2s in the game, because it allowed you to get a full field really easily for just the cost of a simple counterblast. And that's why Gold Paladins were really good, because before, a lot of these skills were overcrept by some of the newer cards with power creep and like that kind of thing. By some of the newer cards, this skill was just like really good. Obviously, you got your Perfect Guard. That's basically like one of the main things. The next build ran Garmor. Another popular build was Garmor Pelennor, and Great Silver Wolf Garmor came out in the Trial Deck 5. It is Limit Break 4. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, it gets plus 5,000 power, and then Counterblast 2. When you ride him to the Vanguard circle, you can pay the cost. If you do, you search your deck for a grade 2 or less Gold Paladin and call its Rearguard. So this one's a little bit of a heavier counterblast, but it allows you to search out a grade 2 that you want from your deck. So a lot of the time you'd ride Garmor and then search out Vivian, and then you'd use Vivian's attack to get an extra call in. And Garmor was often run alongside Whitehair and the Moonshadow's Pelennor. And this is a really sacky kind of, when it happens, your opponent gets really angry because it's really like difficult to pull off, but when you do, it's really good. Limit Break 4, you choose 2 of your rear Gold Paladins and retire them. Or no, sorry, you choose 2 of your Gold Paladin Rearguards and then you put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. When this unit attacks, you do that, and then you choose 2 other Gold Paladins and they get plus 5,000 until the end of the turn. And then his second skill is you choose a Gold Paladin from your hand and discard it. When this unit is placed onto the Rearguard circle from your deck, if your opponent has a grade 2 or greater Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, you put this unit onto your Vanguard circle. So basically what this allowed you to do is you used cards like Vivian, you used cards like Lop-Ear Shooter in order to call Pelennor out during the battle phase, so you would get to ride him and get an extra Vanguard attack in. So you'd get 4 drive checks in 1 turn, which is something almost no other, for like the really cheap cost of just discarding a card, which is something no other clan could really do at the time.
Yeah, and also it cleared out 2 of the Rearguard circles, so if you could use Vivian again,
exactly,
then you could call another card into that now open Rearguard circle, so you could get even more attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's real cheap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the next build was kind of a combination of Ezel, whoop whoop, and Garmor. So Incandescent Lion Blonde Ezel what this does is Limit Break 4, Counterblast 2. You look at the top card of your deck and call it to the rearguard circle if it's a Gold Paladin. And then you increase this unit's power by the power of the unit that you called. So say you call a 10k vanilla, Ezel would get plus 10k power. And then during your turn, this unit gets plus 1,000 for each of your Gold Paladin rearguards. That was a really cool skill that Ezel had. He got like the plus 5,000 power if you had a full field.
Now,
so
which Ezel was that one?
Incandescent Line Blonde Ezel, so the original Ezel.
Okay.
So the reason that this Ezel, so a lot of the builds, like this build ran 4 Garmor, 3 Gigantic Destroyer, which I'll get into in a second, and then the 1 Incandescent Line Blonde Ezel. And the reason you only ran 1 Incandescent Line Blonde Ezel is because you ran a really cool card called Crimson Line Cub Criff as your starter. What Criff did is you choose a unit named Crimson Lion Cub Criff and a unit named Knight of Elegant Skills Gareth on your rearguard circle. Then you put them into the soul, and then if your Vanguard is Knight of Superior Skills Bumanes, you search your deck for an Incandescent Lion Blonde Ezel and you write it. So basically, if you're lucky, you can go first and you can get to grade 3 when your opponent's on grade 1 if you're lucky and get all the cards you need. Another thing you can do is if you this is at a time when going first wasn't as big of a bad thing as it was like recently in the game before G Guardians were introduced. So if you do go second, it allowed you to catch up onto the ride that your opponent was on. So you didn't actually ride to grade 3 second. You didn't get your twin drive second, you got it first. So it basically gave you a little bit of an advantage over your opponent. And so
my question, that Garmor was in the trial deck, so all you had to do was buy 4 trial decks and you would have the 4 Garmor that you needed.
Exactly.
Cool.
And then Ezel was in set 6. But Gigantic Destroyer, which is another grade 3 that a lot of the decks ran, is just a basic came out the extra booster, is just a rare. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have a Gold Paladin Vanguard, this unit gets plus 2,000 power until the end of the turn. So basically, it was a 12k attacker. This is at a time when, so a lot of the time now you have grade 2s where they're 9ks, and then if they have a requirement met, they become 12k attackers. You didn't have this during this time of the game, so a lot of the time people ran grade 3s as extra attacker. And I think that's about it for this era of Gold Paladins.
For all those builds.
Yeah. That's basically.
So that was the original, the origin.
Yeah, that was like the first builds. Oh, another one more thing. Spring Breeze Messenger was the starter that most people ran for Gold Paladins. It was Counterblast 1. Put this unit into your soul. When an attack hits the Vanguard that this unit boosted, you look at the top 3 cards from your deck, and then you call a Gold Paladin from among them, and then you put the rest on the bottom of your deck. So it was basically like another Vivian that you were guaranteed to get because it was your starter, and it let you check the top 3 instead of the top 1 card. So that was a cool starter that the deck had too.
That's pretty. Oh, actually, with that Vivian skill, if you topped a grade 3, then your Vanguard didn't have to be at grade 3 in order to get a grade 3 out onto the field.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So you could have a powerful rearguard early on in the game. Like you could call that the Gigantic Destroyer that everyone ran. So you'd have a 12k attacker when your opponent was still at grade 2 when they were most likely on an 8, a 9, or a 10k. So they had to put more guard into the attack.
And what is the reason why I hate what is it Grand Ezel Scissors? Is that the actual name of it, or is it something?
Yeah, so that came out. It's a. Let me just pull up. It is, well, Ezel, as like kind of more sets were released, the deck moved on to. None of the other Gold Paladin cards really got more direct support except for Ezel. So what Ezel had was it had a cross ride which was introduced, which was Limit Break. It was Blazing Lion Platinum Ezel. Limit Break 5, Counterblast 3. You choose up to 5 of your Gold Paladin rearguards and you give them all plus 5,000 power. And then it's a cross ride, so you get plus 2,000 power if you have regular Incandescent Lion, Blonde Ezel in your soul. So it was a 13k Vanguard, and then you gave, if you were able to meet the requirements, you got to give all of your rear guards plus 5,000 power. So if you were able to get this skill off, it was a really powerful effect. And so this deck saw a little bit of play for a good amount of time. And then as you kind of move on from original Gold Paladins, you go to set 10, you have the Liberators introduced, which is basically in the anime. Does someone else want to explain this?
I don't know if anybody else can explain it.
Nope.
Okay.
Cannot.
Well, so basically what happened is in the anime, the Royal Paladins all came back, and what Aichi did, instead of going back to Royal Paladins, he played Liberator Gold Paladins, which used a lot of his most popular Royal Paladin units, and they became Gold Paladins. So you had Blaster Blade Liberator, which was a Gold Paladin Blaster Blade. You had Liberator of the Round Table Alfred. You had Ganslot Liberator. So you had a lot of his Royal Paladin units that he had used in Season 1.
Yeah,
and they became Gold Paladins.
So they kind of split into two subclans. So the Gold Paladins, or the Royal Paladins in the Gold Paladins, became Liberators.
Yeah.
And then there were Shadow Paladins that broke off that became Revengers.
Exactly. So yeah. So basically, so when that happened, should I go into those builds as well?
Well, we were going to finish talking about why I hate Grand Ezel Scissors.
Well, I'll get back into that. Well, because it came out like after like at the end of the Liberator era is when Grand Ezel Scissors came out.
All right, well, talk
That's
about
why.
Liberators. There, what's? I know that Cole talked a little bit last week about kind of how the Liberator mechanic works, but what would you add to that?
I don't really know. I never played Liberators.
Which cards are the key? Like if you want to play a Liberators deck, what are you looking to have in your deck?
Well, it depends on which. There's two different builds of Liberators. There's the original Liberators, and then there's Bluish Flame Liberators. If you're looking to play original Liberators, there's a couple of builds. There's the Gancelot build, which you focus on your Gancelot Break Ride, and then Gancelot Zenith, which was a cross ride, so it's like a cross Break Ride deck.
All right, using lots of terms that mean weird things. So we're going to talk about break. Let's just quickly. What is a break ride?
So what a break ride is? It's a limit break 4 skill that activates when you ride a grade 3 over the unit with the limit break skill. So it gives the unit you ride plus 10,000 power, and then it gives it an ability.
So it has to ride over a specific card.
Yeah, which are the break ride card. Not a specific. Like there's a couple of cards that are called break ride cards. So it'll say like they generally have a thing where it gets plus. They give a unit. What Baden Dragger does, he is limit break 4, and it says this ability is active if you have 4 or more damage. So that's like the limit break requirement. When a Spike Brother unit rides over this unit, you choose your Vanguard, and until the end of the turn, it gets plus 10,000 power. And the skill, when one of your Spike Brother rearguards attacks, that unit gets plus 10,000 power. And at the end of the battle, that unit gets put on the bottom of the deck. And then, so what you do is you ride a grade 3 over the break ride, and that new unit gets plus 10,000 power and another ability. And then generally, while you're waiting for your break ride to activate, they generally have skills that give them a power boost. So like Baden Dragger, when this unit is boosted by a Spike Brother, it gets plus 2,000 power till the end of the turn. So it becomes a 13k attacker by itself.
So what's a cross ride?
So a cross ride is like Paladin Ezel over Grand Ezel, or like Paladin Ezel over Incandescent Lion Blonde Ezel, just like Dragonic Overlord, the end over Dragonic Overlord. It's basically a unit that gets plus 2,000 power just for having the original grade 3 in the soul. And so what a cross break ride did is it was a cross ride that used the break ride as its grade 3 that it needed in the soul. So it got 10,000 for the turn, and it got another 2,000 permanently. So it was a 13. So it became 23 by itself.
This is still all very confusing for me, but eventually, someday, I'll understand it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu, which appears to be a cross ride, because if you have a card named CEO Amaterasu in your soul, this unit gets power plus 2,000. And it also appears to be a break ride because it has the Limit Break 4 ability that you can search out any card from your deck and put it into your hand.
No, Goddess of the Sun is just a cross ride.
Oh, but it has the Limit Break 4.
Well, it's the break ride. It's not the fact that it has a limit break. It'll say when a unit rides this unit, give it this ability, and then it'll say the ability in the font of the text is red instead of black.
Oh, so the card underneath is giving an ability to the card on top. That's
exactly
what makes it a break ride.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Good. I'm glad you explained that. Now go back to whatever you were talking about. Yawn Gold Paladins, something with their breaky cross rides.
So there was a couple different builds. You had the Liberators were never as competitive as some of the other decks. They were generally outclassed by the decks that came out around them, which was like Kagura with Dragonic Overlord at the end, and what other cards were good at that time? Revengers were one of the best decks and were a lot better than Liberators ended up being. So, but one of the best. So there were a couple of different builds. There were some that ran Alfred and Garmor Liberator, but one of the decks I remember most was Gancelot Zenith. And so Gancelot Zenith was kind of its own subtype, subclan within Liberators. So it is Liberator of Bonds Gancelot Zenith, is Limit Break 4, Counterblast 1. You have to counterblast a card with Liberator in its card name. Then you choose one of your grade 2 or less rear guards, put it on the bottom of your deck. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, you look at the top card of your deck, you search for a Gold Paladin from among them, and you call it to an open rear guard, and then that unit gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the turn. And then, if you have a card named Solitary Liberator Gancelot in your soul, this unit gets a plus 2,000 power, so it becomes a 13k. So it's a cross ride, but this is a cross break ride because Solitary Liberator Gancelot, which is the main grade 3 that came out in the first Liberator trial deck, the trial deck 8, is Limit Break 4. When a Gold Paladin rides over this unit, you choose your Vanguard, and that unit gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the turn. And then you choose 3 of your Gold Paladin rear guards, and those units get plus 5,000 power. So basically, this deck just allowed you to get massive attacks off with up to plus 15,000 power.
Well, that sounds as cheaty as the Gold Paladins typically sound.
Yeah, and then another one of the main cards, of course, because it's Paladins, is Blaster Blade Liberator. And what Blaster Blade Liberator does, similar to all the other Blaster Blades that have come out, is Counterblast 2. When this unit is placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Liberator in its card name, you can Counterblast 2 to choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the front row and retire. So it's basically, you just get Counterblast 2, retire a unit. So that's always one of the main stakes of any Paladin deck, usually, is the Blaster cards. And so that's kind of like, that's what I remember from Liberators. There are a couple other Liberator cards, like Liberator Alfred. Oh, there's also, so there was another card that came out in set 15, which was Liberator Monarch Sanctuary Alfred, which is a Limit Break 5. When your Blaster Blade Liberator is placed on rearguard from your deck, this unit gets plus 10,000 power and plus 1 critical until the end of the turn. And then you can Counterblast 3, Soul Charge, or Soul Blast 2. You put all of your rear guards and locked cards on the top of your deck from your field in any order, and then you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and you call 5 Liberators to rear guards, and then you put the rest on the bottom of your deck. You can only use this ability once per turn. So basically, this unlocks your rear guards. So it helps combat Link Jokers. So you should hate this card as much as you do Ezel Scissors.
Yeah, except nobody uses that card.
Well, back in the day, it was one of the better Liberator builds. You either ran Alfred Liberator deck or you ran Gancelot deck.
All right, and nowadays we have the Bluish Flame Liberators, which Cole went over last week. Cool.
Well, I think he should probably go more in depth in those.
What else can you say about them?
It's you got your Bluish Flame Liberator Glare, Prominence Glare, then you got Crucible. I did not talk about Bruno at all last week, and he's probably the main card.
Okay.
It's May Rain Liberator Bruno, and it is when your other Gold Paladin is placed on the rear guard from your deck. If you have a Vanguard with Liberator in its card name, this unit gets plus 3,000 power until end of turn. So what most people do is they'll put Brunos behind their front row rear guards, and then they'll just use their combos off of their Bluish Flames or whatever else starts a combo, and then every time a card is called, Bruno gets plus 3,000, and it just keeps racking up and up and up. And if you do it, if you can call, if you can use the correct chain and call, just depends on what you have in your deck, but usually you can get 3 or 4 calls. So that's 12,000 power added to your Vanguard, and you're usually in Legion when this happens, so you're already at 20,000. So that's a 33 regularly with Gold Paladins, with the Bluish Flames at least. So he's really scary. So whenever someone throws out a Bruno, everyone panics and tries to get rid of him first. And then there's it's ridiculous. They're like, oh no, he's got Bruno, and they try to think of whatever they can to get rid of it. That's why it's usually safer in the back row, because they can't attack it directly. They have to use their card effects to get rid of them. And then there's also Catch Call Liberator, which is a stand trigger. Basically, you put it into the bottom of your deck. When this unit is placed in the rear guard from your deck, you pay the cost. So you put them in the bottom deck. Then you look at 3 cards on the top of your deck. You search for one not named, Catch Call Liberator, and then you call it to an open rear guard. Then you shuffle your deck. So you shuffle your trigger back in, and then you're also calling out another combo card. And you can call out another trigger called Ascendant Liberator, Barb Truck, which basically is the same thing as Catch Call Liberator. That's a crit trigger, by the way. Except it searches top 4 for Bluish Flame, and then you add that to your hand. And
so that one asks specifically for a Bluish Flame at that point.
Yep. So that's usually your last. Basically, if you get Barb Truck, that's your last card in your chain. So you kind of want to avoid her as long as you can. And then you've got their 2 different Legion mates. There's Oath Liberator, Aglavale. He doesn't have to be called from the deck in order for him to start the chain, but basically just counterblast 1 and then look at the top 3 and then you start the chain. And then Regulation Liberator, Aglavale, and he has to be called from the deck, and it's a Soul Blast for him. And he only looks for Bluish Flames, so you just add those Bluish Flames to your hand. So he's another combo ender, but he also has he gets 2,000 if you have a Bluish Flame Liberator Vanguard.
So one of those 4 or 5 cards that have Bluish Flame in their names.
Yeah, there's only 3, but
no, I guess it's Stride.
Oh, sorry, this is Stride. I always forget to do Stride because I never play it. It would mess up my deck, so I don't. And it's more money. And then there's a Physical Force Liberator Zoran, which is a grade 1. You put this one into your soul. When it's placed in the rear guard, you put it into your soul, and then you look at top 3 cards and any Liberator, and you call it to your name. So he's the only one that adds himself to the soul besides the starter, which you only use that if it's in Legion, and it's the same thing. Some of them shuffle the deck too, which is kind of important.
Well, now we have some new cards that get that soul charge.
Yeah.
You may want to mix them in.
I saw a guy at my place last week. He was mixing the new the Gurgwit start deck with the Bluish Flames, and it was interesting. But to me, it would have to be pure Liberator because almost everything calls for a Liberator specifically. So if you didn't have a Liberator in that thing, it effectively ends the ride chains. Which to me that doesn't sound like it's worth it.
It depends on proportions and how much of a risk you want to take. Because even a Battle Sisters deck of Oracle Think Tank will include a Silent Tom. Because why would you not have Silent Tom in your deck?
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, so that's basically the Bluish Flames.
And you're building Gurguit as well, right?
Yeah, I'm going for a super defensive Gurguit, though.
So what makes Gurguit so appealing over Ezel?
Well, I love how he has a really defensive ability, and his stride is pretty monstrous.
So what's his defensive ability?
So, GB2, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 1. At the beginning of the guard step of the battle that this unit was attacked, you can pay the cost. If you do, look at 4 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card among them, and call it to the guard circle at stand, and then shuffle your deck. So you could theoretically get a perfect guard. You could get other cards that gain shield depending on whatever else, however many Gold Paladins you have. There's a lot of cards you can throw into your deck like that.
And a lot of the shield nullifying effects of cards say that they can't play certain cards from their hand as guards.
Yeah.
But this is playing a card from your deck, so you still can use it to guard with. So yes, that is a pretty decent guard ability. And then there's the Gurguit Stride, which is the emblem for this particular set, the Radiant Sword set. And what's the stride skill there?
Sunrise Radiant Sword Gurguit. It is a GB2 Unite ability, and it's Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 2. This unit gets power plus 5,000 for each of your rear guards until end of the turn. Choose up to 5 of your rear guards, and they get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So I played a guy this week who had that, and he was hitting for massive amounts every turn he strided. It was crazy, because this is a lot like the, how was it? That Scourge Point, I think it was. Yeah, Golden Dragon, Scourge Point Dragon. Except for each card that was called, it gains 5,000. Both of them get 5,000.
Is it for each card that's called, or each card on the rearguard circle?
That unit and this unit get plus 5,000 when your unit is placed in the rearguard from your deck.
Okay, so they have to be called.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say otherwise that's like base 25,000 to start with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on what set you play, most of them will call from the deck quite a bit. So it's going to be a pretty huge number anyway. But I think the highest that he got on me, and he only had 1 copy of this one, but every time he used it, he got about 50,000, 55,000. It was just massive. And every time, luckily, I had perfect guards, but it was scary. I have not seen Gurguit played so aggressively. But yeah, that was my take on the Gurguit.
So Jack, do you have anything on the Gurguit build that you would add?
Generally, I believe now, some of the builds I've been seeing it run, you generally want to run a couple Ezels just to kind of help in the Link Joker matchup. Because if you run 2 Ezel Scissors and 2 of the Ezel Stride, the Ezel Stride is a really powerful stride if you end up riding the Ezel. And then it also helps in the Link Joker matchup, which if you don't have those cards, Link Joker just absolutely destroys your deck because you're not able to call any units because all of your guardian circles your rear guard circles are full with locked cards.
Yeah, I locked down all of your guard circles. And I was going through some of my Link Joker cards, and I have at least one where if you do its ability, if you have an open guard circle, I force you to call a card from your hand and lock it into that guard circle.
That's exactly why you should run Ezel in your Gurguit deck.
So we haven't said it explicitly, but the whole point of one of Grand Ezel Scissors' abilities, which is not all of his abilities, but one of his abilities is like Soul Blast 2, Counter Blast 2, unlock every card on your rearguard circles. So basically, if a Link Joker spent its entire turn locking every card into your rearguard circles, you can just use Grand Ezel Scissors' ability and unlock all those cards. And then I use Judgment Messiah's ability and draw a card for every card that you unlocked with Grand Ezel Scissors.
And then you deck out.
And I deck out, but that's fine.
From drawing 5 cards every turn.
Because deck thinning is deck winning. I heard that on some podcast somewhere.
Until you have no cards left, then you might be a little bothered.
I'd rather lose by decking out than lose to you.
Oh gosh. Okay.
All right. Anything else to say about the Gold Paladins? Any future that you see for this crummy, out of date, old school style clan?
Gold Paladins are really good, especially now with the new support, and they're getting more support next set, so they'll probably be even better.
Yes.
Cole, anything you have to say about Gold Paladins?
Bluish flame art is really pretty.
Yeah, that's why you love the bluish flames, is because of the art.
Yeah, blue is my favorite color, and I really like most of the cards, the way they look. That's the only reason I'll play a card, is because it looks cool.
Well, that's cool.
So,
I mean, that's a good enough reason.
Yep.
All right, so our term of the week this week is Superior Call, which, Cole, can you give us a quick definition of what you think Superior Call means?
It's whenever you call a card that is not from your hand. So you can call it from your drop zone, you can call it from your deck. You might even be able to call it from your damage zone too, depending on what clan you're playing.
So damage zone is Angel Feathers, drop zone is generally Grand Blue,
Yeah.
the deck is Royals and Golds, and then the bind zone is Gear Chronicle. After you
Does
time
Gear
leap.
Chronicle Superior Call from bind?
After you time leap, you superior call them from the bind zone back to the field.
I think Dark Irregulars can Superior Call from the soul.
And Pale Moon can too.
And Pale Moon too. So yeah, so basically you call from anywhere that's not the hand.
Yep.
But yeah, it's nothing. It sounds more special than it actually is. It's really just anytime you have an opportunity to grab a card that's not coming from your hand, you're superior calling it. I have no idea why that is a superior call as opposed to the one coming from your hand is an inferior call. But that's just the term that they use.
It's just a plain old call.
Well, that's enough for this week. I hope everybody can look forward to our next week's edition, where we'll have a lively discussion of current events in the world of Cardfight Vanguard.
Prepare for heatedness.
And if you love Gold Paladins, I would invite you to post a review of our podcast on iTunes, just to let people know that you appreciate or don't appreciate. But anyways, the more reviews that we have in iTunes, the more visible we are for people who are searching for Cardfight Vanguard podcast in iTunes, and other folks will be able to enjoy our programming. I'd like to say thank you to SBJ for all the help that he gives us, and thanks to Nick Burgess for our intro and outro music that everybody gets to enjoy every week. You can reach us on Twitter is still the easiest way. I think Cole's still working on our website, which we'll have at some point in time.
And YouTube channel. I'll get up eventually.
and website and YouTube channel will be around eventually, but for now, just reach us on Twitter. Our main one for the show is at DriveCheck, which is drive_check. And then if you want to contact me directly, I'm at WashInTheSink, WASHINTHESINK. And Cole, you're at
Cole_McCune. That's COLE_MCCUNE.
I am at drive_Jack. Check. I'm confused. Drive_Jack.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Drive Check. See you later, alligator.
I don't know what alligators have to do with Gold Paladins.
Night.
I couldn't think of anything.
Couldn't you make it topical, like cut your hair, Ezel?
What? That's
Everything
That's
about
even
Ezel
worse.
is like literally about his hair color.
It is. There's blonde Ezel. There's blonde Ezel. There's platinum Ezel. There's
hair.
Raven
hair.
Ezel, and then there's Ezel Scissors, which isn't the hair. It's what you use to cut the hair, so it's technically different.